So here's what a Mirage deck basically is. It's 26 duplicate cards, in this case the Jack of Spades, we call those the force cards, and then 26 random indifferent cards, and they are alternated back and forth. You got a force card, regular card, force card, regular card, all the way through the deck. And also, these cards have been chemically treated to stick to each other in pairs. And it's not like super glue or anything. You can still get them apart fairly easily. It's just they kind of grip each other like that. And what that allows to happen is that you can now spread the cards from hand to hand, or even across the table, and not give away the fact that there's a bunch of Jack of Spades in there. Every card that you see right now is a pair of cards. Like this one right here has a Jack behind it. This one right here has a Jack behind it. But it lets you spread through the cards, and so it appears to be a regular deck. Now that goes the same way if you turn the cards face down. Every single card you're looking at right now is a Jack of Spades. So no matter which card they point to, that's a Jack, that's a Jack, that's a Jack. They're going to get that same card every single time. And the last thing that is unique about this deck is that all of those force cards, all of those Jacks are cut a tiny bit. I'm going to try to get close here for you to see this. That they're all a tiny bit shorter than the regular cards. And that makes for a very useful thing. When you cut these cards, you're basically always going to be cutting to one of those indifferent cards because they're longer, they're sticking out farther, and your fingers just naturally grab them. And what that means is it leaves one of the force cards on top of the deck right there. So I cut there, or I could cut deeper and still have a force card on top of the deck. You can cut anywhere and you'll have that same result. Now here's one last thing to keep in mind about the cutting sequence, whether you cut to have the card selected or you're cutting to try to find a given card, whether you do the cut or whether the spectator does the cut. Always take the cut portion and turn it face up and show them. Here's the card right before the one that you cut to, and here's the one right after the card you cut to. So let's see which one you really did cut to. The Jack of Spades. Okay, fine. The reason for doing that is that once in a great while, you'll miss it. You'll cut wrong, or especially spectators will not always cut like this. Sometimes they cut like this, and now all bets are off. You might be looking at a force card there, or you might be looking at it under here. Let's see, there's a force card there. If that happens, you simply pretend that this is the card they cut to. And say, okay, you cut to the Jack of Spades. There's one less, or you could have cut to one more, but you cut to the Jack of Spades. So that's the point. No matter which way you cut, and whether it's you cutting or whether it's the spectator cutting, turn them up and say, okay, here's where you cut. Now you could have gone one less. You could have gone one more. You got the Jack of Spades. Or if they cut wrong, well, it still worked. Okay, here's the card you cut to, and that's the Jack of Spades. Let me see if I can cut it wrong again, like I did the last time. Boom, right there. Okay, there's the card you cut to. Now you could have cut one card less or one card more, but you got the Jack of Spades, so that's the one we're going to use. Keep that in mind when you're doing any kind of cuts. The next thing to keep in mind is turning over the top card. Now, if you're very loose and casual with this and just push one over and turn it, you're actually not turning over the top card. You're turning over two cards that are gripping each other. Now, that can come in handy in and of itself, and we'll get to that, but usually what you want to do is turn over only the top card, like that. The technique for that is to simply bevel the deck a little bit, like that's a very exaggerated bevel. Bevel the deck, and then just with the pad of your index finger, come over and contact the far edge of the card and just lift it up. You're just kind of peeling it off the other card. And it's not at all hard to do. Just, you know, practice for a couple of minutes. You'll pick up the knack of that really quick. It's easy. And the last thing to go over here is how to have a card selected, because that's what most card tricks are, a variation of you pick the card and I find the card. So how do you have a card selected? Well, you could just do this regular, here, pick a card, any card kind of number. Difference is, do not say pick a card, because you don't want them to take a card out of the deck. They would wind up taking 2 cards and it would give the whole show away. So what I do is I just start spreading slowly and I say, just touch one as it goes by, any one at all. That one right there? Okay, let's see what you got here. Jack of Spades, great. That's one way of doing it. You could also spread the cards on the table. And again, tell them to just touch one. It doesn't matter which one they touch. Let's say that one right there. And you just get rid of everything else. Square these cards up. And turn it over. Here's the card you picked. Okay, great. Could have been some other card, but you picked that one. Fine and dandy. So that's another way to do it. There's a thing magicians do. This is called dribbling the cards, just dropping cards a few at a time. And again, because your fingertips are contacting those longer cards over and over, you are dropping cards in pairs. So it doesn't matter. You do this until they tell you to stop, okay? And let's say you're going along and they say, stop. Stop right there? Okay. Now you could have stopped me before, but you got this one right here. So there's your Jack of Spades. We're going to call that your card. That's how that one. And one last way I know how to do it is to put several groups of cards down. That's only a couple. But anyway, tell them to point to any one of these piles. Now, let's say they point to this one here and say, okay, well, now you could have picked the one with this card on top. I'm doing 2 cards there. Remember that? Or you could have picked the one with this card on top, okay? Remember, all these cards are different, and you just happen to get the one here that has this card on top. Let's take a look at it, the Jack of Spades. Okay, we're going to call that your card now. So that's another way to have a card selected. Okay, let's move into the tricks here. So the first one is very simple. It can be presented as either a prediction beforehand or a mind reading kind of thing. If it's a prediction, you might have a card with a different colored back that matches your force card, or you might have Jack of Spades written on a piece of paper sitting in an envelope right here. Whatever you do, you're going to pick whatever selection method you want. If you want to do it like this, or if you want to do it like this, or however you want to do it. So I would go just touch one as it goes by. That one right there. Okay, let's take a look. Jack of Spades. Now look, you could have touched the one before it, or you could have touched the one coming up next, but you got the Jack of Spades. Kind of funny that I already predicted a card before you picked that. It was the Jack of Spades. Now another way to do that exact same trick is to present it as a mind reading thing. You have them select a card and don't even look at it yourself. Say, I'm going to turn away, just look at that, right? I'm not looking at all. And I'm going to read your mind, and then take your time and proceed to read their mind, basically. Reveal that they're thinking of the Jack of Spades. The next trick is card rise, and you don't get much easier than this. Again, you have a card selected. They say stop right there. Okay, let's take a look. I can look too. It's no big deal. Jack of Spades. Now, you could have told me to stop earlier or later. It doesn't matter. But we're going to leave the Jack of Spades right there where it was. I'm not going to touch anything. All I'm going to do is snap my fingers and make your card rise to the top of the deck. That's, you don't get much easier than that. You force the card, and then you do that. And remember, pat your finger, turn over the top card, and you just made their card rise to the top. So let's lose that card now. Look, I'll do some cuts and give it a good solid riffle shuffle here on top of it. And now I'm going to try to give you my magic powers for just a second. Come over here, look at me. Great. Just reach down and cut the deck wherever you want, high, low, in the center, and they do that. And you say, okay, now listen, here's the card you cut to. You could have cut to one card fewer or one card deeper. You just happen to cut to your Jack of Spades. Again, always turn over the cut portion first. I say, you know, I'm going to give you my magical powers and cut the cards wherever you want. And they cut like this. And, well, let's do it again. There. They cut like that. And you turn this over and say, oh my goodness, you just cut exactly to your Jack of Spades. How did you do that? It's a miracle. Another trick you can do is very similar to that selection process we did before, where you lay out a few different piles of cards and tell them we're going to use, you know, whatever the card on top of whatever pile you pick. This time you don't say that. You make it look like you've lost their card somewhere down in the deck and say, okay, just point to any pile. And let's say they point to this one. You pick up the other piles and say, okay, now listen, you could have picked the piles that had these cards in them, but you just happened to pick the one that had your Jack of Spades on top. That's a trick in and of itself. And the last one I'm going to show you is where all the cards appear to be the same. And you hold the deck face up and cut it, and you will always cut to a Jack of Spades. Cut that to the face, like that. And now what you do, it's back to that dribble thing. You're just dropping cards from one hand to the other, and they will automatically fall in pairs. And it looks like they're all the Jack. Another way you can do this is to hold the cards like this and let them cascade off your thumb like that. That's another way to do it. And the absolute simplest way to do it is to hold it in just regular dealing position and riffle the end of the cards with your fingers to show that they're all the same. But regardless of which way you do it, do not skip a beat. The second you are done doing it, peel off that one Jack and show a different card underneath. That'll make people's jaws drop. And my final piece of advice is do not do the trick I just showed you. I know it's going to be a great temptation. It's a real eye popper of a trick. The problem is, as soon as you do that trick and they see all the cards the same, you're basically giving away the fact that it's a trick deck. Now, if you don't care about that, if you're just doing it for laughs, for a gag or something like that, okay, fine. Personally, I don't do it because anytime I use a Mirage deck, I do not want the audience to even suspect that this is a trick deck, because I want them to think that the magic is coming from me and not from that deck of cards. And then click on this box over here if you would like to see a performance of my absolute favorite trick to do with a Mirage deck. That's all I got for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care. See you soon.